I see this sort of messaging of, get married when you can't afford it and have more kids than you can afford and so on. And I'm like, I kind of get where that's coming from, and I think it's coming from a good place. But I'm also kind of like, that's kind of dangerous messaging to a lot of people, because you also don't want guys running out there and, kind of just have, by the time they're 30 years old, they've, had all these kids that they can't afford. And now they're, they're on the hook for various types of child support in some cases. I've seen that too, and it's just like, yep. Yeah, you probably should have waited, bro. Like you should have, chilled out a little bit.
Yeah. Look, I think there's so much nuance to this. It's such an amazing conversation, but like, it's a priority thing and a mindset thing as well. Yeah. Like if you think that, hey, I'm just like, that's not on my radar. Hell no. Like I'm worried about my business. I'm worried about my fitness. I'm worried about dating around. I'm worried about travel. Like, okay, then you're going to do those things until you're 35. But if you say like, hey, like I'm looking for a woman that I can trust and that stays cool under pressure. Mm-hmm. I can trust them and they stay cool under pressure and they're willing to do this work with me, because the bottom line about relationships is it's never fun. It's never easy all the time. It takes freaking work all the time. And that's why, like what you said about seeing a functional relationship growing up is so important, because doing it is hard. It's not easy. Like you name the most amazing woman in the world, I'll name a man who has been tired of her before and the other way around. Like it's just a fact. You have to do the work to make it work. But so many people just don't make it a priority and don't make it a mindset until, a little later than I think what their older self might want. So yeah, super nuanced. I think your perspective is right, but I want more people. And another thing is the culture in some of these cities in America, especially the culture is just it's anti. We were in Boston, like Zuby, this is a story that I haven't actually told before. We were in Boston. I was 27. My wife and I had gotten married a year earlier and we were pregnant. My wife was 26. We were at a party like very shortly after she was pregnant, and she's like, no, I'm not drinking. And all the girls are like, are you pregnant? And she said, yes, we're pregnant. And nobody there was even in a relationship. Well, a couple people were in a relationship. Nobody was engaged. Nobody was married. Nobody had kids on their radar yet at all. Bunch of 27 to 33, 35-year-olds. They pulled her aside later at that party and were like, hey, like, what are you gonna do about your career? Like, what are you gonna do about work? Like, this is crazy. And she goes, well, I thought I was just gonna take my maternity leave and go back. But now that I have a baby in here, like, I think I might want to be a stay-at-home mom. And they're like, is Nick making you do that? Like, be honest. You can be honest with me. Like, is Nick making you do that? And we're in the car ride home from our friend's house, and she's like, Nick, I want to leave this city. Like, none of my friends value this. I feel very hurt. I don't feel supported. I don't feel like I'm going to have community here when I do have a baby. These are not the right people for me. Mm-hmm. And it was a very eye-opening thing. And about a year later, we moved to Athens, Georgia, where all of our friends had kids, and they do value that. And many of the mothers do stay at home. So I think it's another kind of a cultural thing in some of our major cities too. That's a little bit of an issue.
It massively is, Nick. And, it's interesting. I've thought about this a lot, especially over the last couple of years. And something that I think is a bit under discussed is that, so much human behavior is mimetic, right? Like we tend to do what we see people around us doing and what we think is normal. And if you are in a society or a culture or a city where there are there's few babies, few marriages, you don't see children around, you go out to restaurants, you don't see children, you don't hear babies crying, you don't see it, it can become very normal to not even desire it because you don't see it. And also, individuals and places become less accommodating of children, the fewer children they are. And then if you go to a place where there are lots of families and lots of children and lots of babies, there's so much accommodation for them. And I mean, if you want to make a girl broody, like, let her hold a baby. Her friend has, and this is shown, like if a girl's girlfriends are having babies, the probability, the statistical chance that she is going to have a child, like in the next couple of years, like it shoots. I think it's like perhaps the most predictive factor, and it makes complete sense. I mean, even as a man, I sense it. I live in Dubai. Dubai is full of children, full of families. You see babies everywhere. Just step outside and there's children all over the place. In fact, if you don't have a child, it kind of feels like a bit weird. You feel like, man, everyone else has kids. So even from my perspective, like when I moved here, I was just like, whoa. Like, you see dads playing with their kids all the time. That one's got his 2 kids, his 3, and it makes you be like, yeah, you know what? I want that. Like, that's cool because I'm seeing it. In the UK, I didn't see it that much. I saw it a little. And I'm an uncle times 10. So, I've got children in my life. But, I've been to cities where, I now notice it when I go to a city and I don't see children.
Yeah.
But if I'm in that city for a long time, I stop noticing it.
I want to have a 4th child. So does my wife. But the number one thing we do is we go see our friends with brand new babies, and she holds those babies, and she starts to look at me, and we're like, okay.
It's biological, man. Like it's in us. I think that's actually one of the big things that's happening now in major cities. I'm now starting to hear more people talk about the birth rate crisis and so on. And I think it's kind of like a positive spiral or a negative spiral. I think once you get below a certain number and you're no longer seeing it and it's no longer accommodated and you feel like the odd one out, if, particularly for women, because obviously they're the ones who bear the children, but also I think they tend to be more swayed by what society is doing and is telling them. So if there's all of this messaging that's essentially antenatal, or which is all work primary, child secondary, then they can feel like they're doing something wrong. I think that women are far more harsh with each other in many ways than men are with women. I think women are more likely to look down upon a stay-at-home mother than men are, in my experience. It's anecdotal, but that's what I see.
Yeah, my wife felt that. And I think, look, it takes work to be a dad. It's hard. So if you're not disciplined, if you can't not cheat on your wife, if you can't stay committed and do the hard things, then it's not time to be a dad. But man, you grow and you improve so much as a human being when you do hard things. You talk about this all the time, Zuby, of that's why we work out. That's why we start companies. That's why we try things where we're likely to fail. Something about having a kid, man, it's just makes you better as a human. And it's such an exciting journey that I think people don't realize how much benefit there is. What I say is it makes your highs higher and it makes your lows lower. Mm-hmm. If that's an interesting, if that's a relatable way to say it, it makes the good things in life even better. And it makes the hards even harder because you have more that can go wrong when your kids can get sick and you have to watch your kids suffer and you have to make these parenting decisions that aren't straightforward. You know what I mean?